I talked about my breast cancer journey at a Women in Technology function, and I thought after Betty asked me, I'd talk to you about the same thing I talked to them about. The theme for the Women in Technology was overcoming, and it was about the things that we as women need to overcome as part of our work journey, as part of our life journey. And I think as mothers and daughters and aunties and sisters, we're well used to taking care of other people. We rush around, we put other people first, and we make sure that all the right things happen for our whānau, for our friends, but we don't do a great job of taking care of ourselves. But something happened on Christmas Eve 2018 that made me have to think really carefully about the job I do taking care of myself. I went to a follow-up appointment for a long overdue mammogram, so a mammogram that I probably should have gone to about 6 months earlier. I finally got around to booking it on the 21st of December. They made me not only have a mammogram but an ultrasound and then a biopsy, and they said come back on Monday, which happened to be Christmas Eve. So I went back in on Monday. I mean, I've had biopsies before, they're never anything. Waltzed into the office and the breast surgeon said to me, Fiona, it's cancer. Well, my ears started buzzing, my feet went numb, and after that I heard about every sixth word that she said to me. And I didn't like any of them, not one of them. Mastectomy, a lumpectomy, chemo, tumour, 5 centimetres, grade 5, lymph nodes, multiple surgeries, reconstruction, options. Somehow, in about 15 minutes, I had booked in for a mastectomy. I'd had a referral to an oncologist, and apparently someone was going to see me in about a month. Because actually everyone in New Zealand goes on holiday at Christmas, including breast surgeons and oncologists. The next 2 weeks were shit. Literally the worst Christmas I'd ever had. I lived in a great fog of trying to work out how I would take care of my children when I was dead. And then I would remember that actually you don't fight cancer by being negative, you fight cancer by being positive. And then I would freak out about the fact that I was being constantly negative and wonder if, as a result of that, I was actually doing myself a disservice, and that would set me in my negative spiral again. And all the time I smiled and told people that I was fine and I wasn't worried and we'll fight this and it's not going to be an issue. After those 2 weeks of holiday, I think that's a loose term, I headed back into the office. So as a GM responsible for a team of 200, it was really easy to head back into that rush, into that non-stop doing things that we do so well, into the burying your head into the sand of meetings and deadlines and being generally indispensable in your office. And then I realised that being indispensable was going to be a problem. For someone who needed multiple surgeries, 5 months of chemo and a focus on fighting aggressive grade 3 cancer, being indispensable was going to provide a problem not just for me, but for my entire business. And it would have been an issue if it was true. And of course it wasn't. My team were amazing, my company was great, my lead team were super capable, and we made plans for me to step down and then to step up in a matter of weeks. And it made you think that actually, you know the saying that is, your job would replace you in minutes without even looking backwards, but your family never will, is very, very true because I watched it happen. So I stepped down, they stepped up, and we started 2019 as a hell of a year. My first surgery was on the 15th of February. It was 9.5 hours long with 3 surgeons because they were doing the mastectomy and the reconstruction at exactly the same time. That's not an option afforded to women in the public health system. That's only afforded to women in private, with private insurance. Women in the public health system have to follow their surgeries in 2 phases. They have to have their mastectomy first, and they often have to go months or years until they're afforded a reconstruction. They have to live through spaces and options that I didn't have to live through. And it makes you realise that actually we're lucky, we're blessed, and we're grateful on so many layers. To tell you the whole story of that year is a very different and much longer. We'll be here till dinner, so we won't do that, but I thought it'd be worthwhile to hit a couple of highlights and a couple of lowlights with you. Let's start with the lowlights because it's always better to end on a highlight. Chemo is definitely a lowlight. It's basically rat poison. It's potentially life-saving, but it's rat poison nonetheless. And it makes you feel sick, and it makes you feel ill, and it makes you feel like someone who's not quite you every day. And it also makes you wonder if it's actually doing the good that it's supposedly doing. I think the jury's out on that. The great news is that chemo brings you another gift, and that's the gift of menopause. So overnight you go from potentially not having any menopause symptoms, and I didn't, to full-blown menopause in under 24 hours after your first chemo session. So the hot flushes, the weight gain, and every other menopause side effect that's chemically induced starts overnight. It really is the gift that just keeps giving. And in years to come, it'll be a gift that I get to keep out of my breast cancer. I can honestly say the highlights absolutely outweighed any lowlights. What a year. First highlight, my village, and many of you are in my village, were utterly amazing. I was wrapped in support and love from day one. They stood up, they leaned in, they helped sort out shit that I couldn't sort out by myself. Highlight 2, my sister. But firstly, if you don't have a village, and if you look around you'll see you do, but if you don't have a village, make sure you get one. Highlight 2, my sister. Basically came home, stepped in, started doing all the things that I was going to have to let lie on the ground without her. She came to every single medical appointment and wrote all the notes. Even if I didn't write the notes, even if I didn't want the notes, she wrote all the notes. So if you don't have a sister, you want to get yourself one of those too. And if you don't have a blood sister and it's a little late for you, mum and dad aren't up for the job, then find yourself a volunteer sister. And don't wait till you need one, because volunteer sisters are an essential part of life, even if you're not on a cancer journey. So get yourself a sister. The health outcome was definitely a highlight. So I was cancer-free from after my first surgery, and everything else, all the joy and delight of the follow-up treatments were just that, follow-up treatments, entirely preventative. Extraordinarily lucky when we consider how many hundreds of women every year lose their life to breast cancer, how many families, whānau, communities go without extraordinary women who do not win that battle, and we all know some. So the year of 2019 was drawing to an end, my treatment was over, my hair was finally growing back, and boy, I was so excited. 2020 was going to be my year. The travel I was going to do. I was going to take a whole year off and travel. And so once again, Fiona plans and the universe laughs. But nonetheless, 2020 certainly beat the hell out of 2019 for me. So whilst the rest of the globe complained, I revelled in finally starting to feel well again. Probably the greatest gift this experience has given me is a renewed sense of appreciation. And that's for pretty much everything. When you are no longer guaranteed waking up in the morning, every single experience and every single opportunity feels just that much sweeter. Now, I'm not saying to you, because I'm not a doctor and I wouldn't dare, and this is in no way medical advice, that constant work stress and being overloaded causes cancer. I'm not saying that skipping meals, eating crap on the run, and not getting enough sleep causes cancer. I'm not saying that delaying getting your mammogram lets that cancer grow to over 5 centimetres in size, but I am saying that none of those things help. And when we get busy, and when we're rushing, and when we're not taking care of ourselves, we're affording opportunity for us to not be there for our families. So we think we're doing the right thing by putting ourselves last and putting them first. But it's that old saying about applying your oxygen mask. If you're not applying your oxygen mask, how will you be there to apply theirs? Long before life stops us by dropping a brick wall like cancer on us, it tries to get our attention and it tries to slow us down. And it might throw a few pebbles at you. And if you don't pay attention then, you might feel the sting of a few rocks. And if you're really thick, you might get a brick thrown in your way or put in your path. Don't wait for the brick wall. Don't wait till something lands on you that you cannot get up from in order to get off the treadmill of rushing around, of deprioritizing yourself, and of putting your own needs and your own health last. The saying goes something like, if you can't be a great example, be a great lesson. So let me be that lesson for you. Walk on the beach, put your phone down, play with your kids, play with your grandkids, play with someone else's kids. Make sure you got permission from the parents. That's another whole shade of problem and a different talk. But take that time while you can. Buy the shoes, take the holiday, and book the bloody mammogram. Thanks, guys.